In this video, we'll take up the mid-chapter trigonometry review homework sheet. We're basically halfway through the unit, and this unit's pretty long, and in fact, I'd argue that most students find this unit the most challenging one. So I just added the sheet just to make sure we are pretty solid on everything up until now. So let's start with question 3 because I wrote some of the answers straight into the sheet. So for question 3, we are working with our knowledge of quadrantal angles. Hopefully you can find the exact value for the quadrantal angles like 0 degrees, 9 degrees, and so forth and so on. If you're having trouble, what you can do is draw the unit circle and then you'll know where the terminal arm is located. So for example, like 270 degrees. I know that if I'm working with 270 degrees, that my terminal arm will be located on the negative y-axis. And if you can't imagine that, then give yourself a diagram. Question 4 and 5, we're just basically talking about the cast rule, nothing fancy. Okay, so let's go back to question 1. So for question 1, the strategy is basically the same. You need to know your special angles. You need to know the cast rule, and then that basically tells the answer to all the questions. Now, be careful with questions like H. Like 1H, it was 480 degrees. I mean, I can work with 480 degrees, but I'm not as comfortable because I usually work with angles between 0 and 360 degrees, and that's probably the same for you. So what you can do is find the angle which is coterminal to 480 degrees, and between 0 and 360, which is 120 degrees. And that's something you work with all the time. 120 degrees you should know is in quadrant 2, and the reference angle is 6 degrees, so tan 120 degrees is negative root 3. Okay, so when the angle is not that friendly, you can make it friendly by using your knowledge of coterminal angles. For question 2, unfortunately, you have to use a calculator for all of question 2 because all 6 of those ratios, they're not going to give us exact values. So yeah, you need the calculator to find the reference angle, and then you can solve for the principal angle. And there are 2 answers because of the cast rule. Yep, nothing more to say. You just need to use your calculator and solve for the reference angle. For question 6, you have to find R first, because without R you can't find the exact value for the 6 trigonometric ratios. So I know R was 5 because of the 3, 4, 5 triangle. You can show your work for that, but once you know what R is, then you can find the values of the 6 trig ratios because you already have X and Y. If you have X, Y, and R, you're done. Okay, as long as you know the definitions like sine is Y over R and so forth and so on. Lastly, we have question 7. We're trying to find the vertical displacement of the top of the ladder. So we want this in exact form, which means exact answer. So because we have special angles, we can do that. So I drew the 2 diagrams. I found the distance from the top of the ladder to the ground, and the change in the distance is your vertical displacement. So yeah, that's my answer there. Using special angles, I can find these vertical distances and calculate for the vertical displacement. So hopefully you found this sheet pretty straightforward, and now we can move on to the next half of the unit.